This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, good. Good morning, everybody. Parshat Vayeshev, and um, today's topic is going to be who done it. Okay, who done it, and we'll see as we work our way through what I am talking about. Okay, no, the cold hasn't gotten to me. It does make sense. Okay, and we'll work our way through over here. A lot to talk about in this week's parsha. We're going to be focusing on Yosef, his brothers, and the sale. And it's interesting because very often when we read something, we read it with our foreknowledge of what we think happened, and therefore we read it in that way. However, we're going to see today that when we're reading certain stories here in this week's parsha, the actual reading comes out very different than we are accustomed to reading and understanding it. And that actually is one of the approaches of one of the classic commentators. And there's a lot to unpack about that. But let us get started on Parshat Vayeshev, Perek Lamed Zayin, Pasuk Aleph, page 198 in our Stone Chumashim, chapter 37, verse 1. Vayeshev Yaakov be'eretz migurei aviv be'eretz Canaan. Vayeshev Yaakov, right? And Yaakov settled in the land of his father's sojourning. Just one second. Yeah, we'll take a look at that in a second. Yaakov settled be'eretz mugurei aviv. Rashi brings the famous teaching of the Chazal of the sages, Bikesh Yaakov leishev b'shalva. Yaakov wanted to settle b'shalva, with tranquility, with peacefulness, with serenity. He wanted to settle down. And what happened? Kafatz alav, and suddenly there jumped upon him all of these episodes that we're going to see over here of Yosef. Kafatz alav rogzo shel Yosef. The whole angry episode of Yosef basically jumped him, right? Jumped upon him. And our sages see this in the words Vayeshev Yaakov. Yaakov settled. Doesn't say he settled in the land where his fathers settled. Doesn't say that he sojourned in the land where his fathers sojourned. We have this change in the wording. Vayeshev Yaakov. Yaakov settled be'eretz mugurei aviv. Now, if you want to see a little more, if you turn to page 264 in Yuchum for a moment, that is Perek Mem Zayin Pasuk Chet 47:8. This is when, much later on, when Yaakov comes down to Egypt, where Yosef is, and he meets Paro. Vayomer Paro, the very top line, 264, verse 8. Paro said to Yaakov, Kama yemei shenei chayecha. What are the days of the years of your life? Paro sees a person who looks ancient, right? He looks antique. And he says to him, how old are you? Vayomer Yaakov, Yaakov said to Paro, Yemei Shnei Megurai. The days of the years of my Megurai are of my sojourns with only a mere Shloshim Shana. I'm a young, sprightly 130-year-old. However, why do I appear to be so old? Ma'at v'ra'im hayu shnei chayai. My years were few, but very, very difficult. V'lo hisigu et yimei shnei chayei abutai b'yimei migureihem. And it did not reach. Cheryl, having some bounce back from you. Sorry, if you can mute. And it did not equal the years of my fathers during the days of their sojourning. Back to us in 198. So Megurai is my sojourns. Sojourns are the ups and downs and all the twists and turns, the long and winding road of life with all that it brings us. That is Megurai. Vayeshev Yaakov. Yaakov wanted to settle. And Hashem says, is it not enough? Tzaddikim want to sit peacefully in this world. Hashem says, is it not enough? What's prepared for them in the world to come? They want to sit peacefully in this world. And like we said, the whole Joseph episode sort of came at him. And this is an interesting concept, right? Because, right, we understand Yaakov, right? Some of us understand retirement, right? There's a point when we want to stop churning the wheels quite as hard and be able to focus on different things. And I think maybe that's the key. That, it's okay to transition one stage of life to another stage of life, but we want to make sure that we are staying productive, that we are still doing. This world is called the Olam HaAsiyah. It's the world of doing. And certainly for a tzaddik on the level of a Yaakov, but even for people like us, we always have to make sure that we are staying relevant, that we are staying active and engaged and productive, no matter what stage we are at. Okay, let's begin now the whole Yosef story. Ada told us Yaakov, these are the generations or the chronicles, the happenings of Yaakov. Yosef was 17 years old, and he is roe et echav bitzon. Right? Very strange way of saying it. It says, right, we want to say he was shepherding along with his brothers. But roe et echav is almost like he was shepherding his brothers, Batzon, along with the flock. V'hunar, and he was a child along with the sons of Bilhah and Zilpah. Vayaveh Yosef v'divatam ra'al avihem. Anything untoward that Yosef would see about his brothers, he would quickly bring that el avihem. He would bring that to their father. Okay? Not the makings of brotherly love and compatibility over here, right? See, anything he saw, he would go running to his father and tell. And Chazal, the sages, give us three things that he reported, and actually they were all misreadings of what he had seen. Misreadings or misunderstandings. And right, as we know, very often we see something, we understand it a certain way, and very often that is very, very far from what's actually happening. But that gets locked into our mind as this is what it is, this is who this person is, this is how this person acts, this is the type of person that they are, and then we've got trouble moving forward. Yisroel havet Yosef mikol banav. Pasuk Gimel. Yisroel, Yaakov loved Yosef from all of his sons, more than all the sons. Kiven zekunim hulo. He was the child of his old age. He was a child who was very, very wise, right? He was similar in appearance to him. Rashi gives a number of different explanations. So he had a special love for Yosef, and we understand this was the child of his beloved Rachel. This is the child of his beloved Rachel. And 1 second. And keep in mind at this point, Rachel has died. So this is what he has left. Yosef and Binyamin is what he has left from the love of his life, from Rachel. So Yosef was special. V'asalo kitonet pasim, and he made for him a fine woolen cloak, tunic, right? So he showed this favoritism, right? Now, it's understandable for a parent to admire certain qualities in certain children, right? Not to have a favorite, but I admire the tenacity of this child and the resourcefulness of this child and the sweetheartedness of this child. Everyone has their qualities. But it's very dangerous ground once we show that. And if we show any favoritism, that is bound to be catastrophic. Right? It's so interesting. We also had before by Rachel and Leah, right? That Yaakov loved Rachel more and Leah felt hated, right? There's always that very thin line where there's love, then hate is around the corner in terms of how others feel, or yeah, it could be a fine line. The brothers saw that their father loved him, Yosef, more than all the other brothers, more than they, and they biasnuto. They had a hatred for him, and they cannot speak to him lishalom, peacefully. Yosef has his dream, and he tells his brothers, and they hate him. Right? Right? He hasn't even told them the dream yet. Seemingly, he told his brothers, "I had an amazing dream." And we can just imagine them rolling their eyes, saying, "Okay, we know where this is going to go." V'yosifu otznoto, and they hated him even more. And he said to them, "Listen to the dream that I dreamt. We were all bundling bundles in the field, and my bundle stood up, and all of yours surrounded, all your bundles surrounded my bundle. And what did they do? And they bowed down to my bundle." And they said to him, Pasuk Chet 8, will you be a king? Will you be a ruler over us? And they hated him even more because of his dreams and because of his words. What was Yosef thinking in sharing this dream with them? What would you say, my friends? What was he thinking? Was this just immaturity on his part? What was he thinking that he shared this dream with the brothers, knowing that they had this animosity towards him? What was he thinking?
Maybe he was trying
Perhaps he
to
was,
tell them that it wasn't his fault, that he had been chosen specifically for something important.
Okay,
Maybe that would remove the animosity.
okay, okay. I hear
maybe,
that. Jenny, yes?
maybe it was a prophecy that he was warning the brothers about, that he knew it was an important idea.
Okay, okay. So good. So Esther suggested that maybe he thought if the brothers would understand that there is this position that he is meant to hold, then they would accept that. They wouldn't be so angry and so hateful. And Jenny added that there's a prophecy involved here, and actually, very interesting. All the sheaves bowing down. We know what's going to happen. We could zoom ahead, and the brothers are all going to be in need of their sustenance, of their sheaves. And what's going to happen? They're going to go down to Mitzrayim, unbeknownst that they are speaking to Yosef, and they're going to be bowing down to Yosef when they get to Mitzrayim, when they get to Egypt. Yes, Gabriela.
I have a question about the order, because in Pasuk K it says Yosef dreamt a dream, which he told to his brothers. And so the order is he told a dream, and then it says they hated him more, and then it says he said to them,
Yeah.
and the explanation of the dream. So
Yeah. So my understanding of Pasuk Vav, a Pasuk Hey, he dreamt a dream and he told his brothers and hated him more. He hasn't yet told them what the dream was. As we said, right? I think, right, the way I'm understanding that, he said to them, I had an amazing dream. Like I said, and we can just imagine them starting to roll their eyes and say, we know where this is heading. And their animosity is building up at that point already. And he had another dream, and he told it to his brothers. And he said, behold, I dreamt, and there was the sun, and the moon, and 11 stars, mishtachavim, going down to me. Vayesaper laviv elachav, he told it to his father and to his brothers. And his father, Vayig'ar bo aviv, his father rebuked him, his father scolded him. But when he said to him, Ma, what is this dream that you dreamt? And will I, your mother, and your brothers come and bow down to you to the ground? Now, of course, his mother had died already, right? But it would mean Bilhah, who was the one who had raised him. Vayikanu vo echav. The brothers were jealous. And those that point out, the first dream was all about material sustenance. It was about sheaves. And there the brothers felt this hatred. There was no jealousy. But this is already going beyond the physical material sustenance. This is now going into the spiritual realm already. Sun, moon, stars were already in the heavenly sphere. Now it says, Vayikanu vo echav. Now it says the brothers were jealous. Va'aviv shamar et hadavar. Right? The English says his father, Shamar, guarded it, kept the matter in mind. Rashi has an added layer, Shamar. He was waiting. Mamtinu mitzapeh matai yavo. He was waiting for it to happen, meaning his father saw this greatness in Yosef. That's why he had given him that cloak, which was a show of leadership. Right? Who wears that garment? Right? The leader wears that garment. So the father was waiting for it to happen, but as we'll see in future weeks, he didn't share that with Yosef. Okay, let's turn the page now to 202, Perek Yud Bet Yud Gimel. I'm sorry, Pasuk Yud Bet Yud Gimel. The brothers went now to shepherd the flock in Shechem. Yisroel said to Yosef, Halo achecha ro'im b'Shechem. Your brothers are shepherding there in Shechem. I will send you to them. Now, it doesn't sound like a great idea, right? Yaakov must be aware of the animus the brothers are feeling towards Yosef. Yosef is aware of the brothers' feelings towards him. And his father said, I'm going to send you now to Shechem. Now, Shechem had a pretty bloody history. Shechem is where Shimon and Levi had wiped out the city after they had defiled Dinah. Okay? And his father said, hey, I've got a great idea. I'm going to send you unescorted off to your brothers in Shechem. What does Yosef answer? Yomer Hineni. Hineni, here I am. Where Akedas Yitzchak, thank you, Gabriella. By Akedas Yitzchak, we had a lot of Hineni. And Hineni sort of meant crazy about the mission, not so sure this is the best idea, as in offering my son as a sacrifice, or as in going out to Shechem to see how my brothers are doing. I'm sure they're doing fine. I'm not so sure how well I'll be doing at that point, but fair enough. Hineni. He said, "Lechna re'eit shlomachecha." Go check out how your brothers are doing, and the shlomatzon, how the flocks are doing, and come back and let me know. And he sent him, and he came to Shechem. He found a man there. He was wandering in the field. What are you seeking? Vayomer et achai anochi mevakesh. I'm seeking my brothers. I'm seeking some brotherhood. And what did he say to them? What did he say? The man 17, the sages say this is Gabriel, the angel. Nasu mizeh. They've left from there. Right? They're no longer interested in brotherhood. They went to Dotan. Yosef went after them and found them in Dotan. Jenny, did you want to say something? I'm sorry, did I cut you off?
So just to back up one second to verse 13. And Israel said to Yosef, we were talking, I think last week or the week before, about Yaakov and Yisrael. Why would he be? Is there a reason why it'd be called Yisrael at this point?
Okay, so there are a number of different approaches. I think it's the Or HaChaim says when he is in an elevated spiritual state, Yisrael. When he is going through his hardships, then he is Yaakov. Once Yosef is sold, he becomes Yaakov, right? And that's basically how he is referred to, right? And I'll show you all one pasuk that really brings it to life. Just 1 second. Yeah. If you go to page 256, this is when Yaakov is going to be reunited with Yosef. Okay? Page 256, Perek Memhe, Pasuk Chaf Zayin. Okay, they told him all the words of Yosef that he had spoken, and he saw the wagons that Yosef had sent. Vatichi ruach Yaakov avihem, and the spirit of Yaakov, their father, came to life. Vayomer Yisroel, and once his ruach came to life, who now speaks? Vayomer Yisroel. Yisroel now said. Next verse. Vayisa Yisroel. Right? And Yisroel then went and traveled. Okay? So that pasuk is basically the key to all the Yaakovs and Yisrael, I believe according to the Or HaChaim. Okay, let's come back now and let's read these verses without any pre-knowledge, and let's try to figure out who done it. Pasuk Yudchet, Vayiro Tomei Rachok. They saw him from a distance. Uveterik Ravaleim, and before he even drew close, Vayitnaklu Oto. Now they had this conspiracy. They conspired Lahamito. We're going to kill this kid. Vayomer Isha Lachiv. One man said to his brother, Hine Bala Cholamot Halazeba. Behold, here comes this dreamer. Vata, and now Luchu, let's go. Vinnahar Gehu. Let us go and kill him. V'nashlichehu b'achad barot. We'll throw him into one of the pits. V'amarnu, and we'll say Chayara achalatu. We'll say a wild beast consumed him. V'nireh ma yuchalamotav. Now, we live with a lot of sarcasm. So we read this pasuk very simply, and we'll see what will come of his dreams. Rashi says, who said these words, we'll see what will be of his dreams? right? Obviously, they couldn't have said it because they just said we're going to kill him. But Ruach HaKodesh, the heavenly voice, said, well, we'll see what will be of his dreams. Okay. But this is, we'll call it plan number one. What's plan number one? Kill him, throw him into a pit. Vayishma Reuven. Reuven, the oldest brother, the one who knows that the responsibility will be on him, heard, Vayatzilehu miyadam, and he saved Yosef from their hands. Vayomer, and he said, Lo nakenu nafesh. We should not kill him, right? Hit him and kill him, right? We should not do it directly. Rather, he introduces plan number two. Reuven said to them, Al tishbichu dam. Let us not spill the blood. Hashlichu oto ala bor hazeh. Let's throw him into this pit. Asher bamidbar. That's there in the desert over here. V'yad al tishlichu bo. Let us not send our hands against him. That's what he said. What was he thinking, the Torah testifies? Laman hatzil oto miyadam. His intent was to save Yosef from their hands, la'shivo el aviv, and to bring him back to his father. That was the plan. Plan number two, throw him into the pit. Vayihi, Pasuk Chaf Gimel, page 204, verse 23. And it was, Kasher ba Yosef el achav, Yosef came to his brothers. Vayavshitu et Yosef et kutanto. They took off his cloak, the et ketonet hapasim, and then that ketonet hapasim, asher alav, that was on him. Vayikachu, and they took him. They're following plan number two. Vayashlichu oto habora. They throw him into the pit. Va'abor reik ein bo mayim. The pit was empty. No. But Reuven's thinking differently, but presumably that's what their plan is. That's what they want to do, right? That he will die over there. Okay, plan two. Reuven's planning on saving him, but they don't know that. And they sit down to have some food. Vayisu einehem, they lifted their eyes. Vayiru, and they saw. They, of course, as the brothers, lifted their eyes, and they saw, v'hinei, and behold, orchat Ishmaelim bami Gilad. There's this whole caravan of Ishmaelites coming from Gilad, carrying all of these different nice spices on their way down to Egypt. Vayomer Yehuda el achav. Yehuda speaks and says to his brothers, Ma betza, what do we gain over here? Ki narog et achinu, if we will kill our brother, right? They already moved off from killing the brother, but throwing him into the pit and having him die there. V'chisinu et damo, and are covering over his blood. Plan number three, l'chu v'nimkarenu li'yishmaelim. Right, there is this caravan of Ishmaelites. Come, let us sell him to these Ishmaelites. V'yadeinu al tihibo, and our hands should not be at him. Ki achinu b'sareinu, he is our brother, he is our own flesh. Vayishma'u echav, and the brothers heard. Just I want to add one thing, a beautiful Orach Chaim. What Reuven was saying to them is as follows. Reuven said to them, we are Baalei Bechira. We are people with our own free will. And therefore, if we kill him, we'll have no way of knowing, did the heavens want him dead or not? According to the Sepharno. The brothers actually, let me just interject that. The brothers here made a Beit Din, and they reached a conclusion. There's a concept of a rodef. A rodef is someone who's chasing you, trying to kill you. The halacha is turn around and kill that person. If the only way to save your life is by killing that person, kill that person. So they viewed Yosef as a rodef. He's trying to kill us, if not physically, spiritually. What's he doing? He's giving all these reports to our father about us. What's he trying to do? He's trying to, they look back at the family history. He's trying to make us the next Yishmael, the next Esav, right? Yitzchak, the younger one, became primary. Yishmael pushed away. Yaakov, the younger one, became primary. Esav got pushed away. Here's the younger Yosef telling father all these bad things about us, trying to turn us, trying to destroy us. Well, if a rodef is trying to take away your life in this world, he can take away his life. Someone who's trying to take away your eternity is certainly a rodef. Therefore, he's deserving of death. Let's kill him. And then they said, well, the din by a rodef, the law by a rodef is if there's a way to stop him short of killing, then you must stop him in that manner as opposed to killing. Well, if we sell him down to Egypt, then that will take care of the problem. We don't have to kill him, but we can take care of the problem that way. But the Orach Chaim says back by Ruvain, by plan number 2, he says a fascinating thing. If we kill him, we'll never know if the heavens is really in agreement with our din, with our judgment or not. Let's throw him into a pit. Rashi famously says, brings from the Gemara, there was no water in the pit. There were snakes and scorpions in the pit. Okay? So some say they didn't know. It was too deep, they didn't know. Others can look and no, they did know. That was exactly the idea. Throw them in there. Snakes and scorpions are not Baalei Bechira, are not free-willed creatures. They act on instinct. They're controlled by God. And that way, if anything happens to him, then we know we were right. If nothing happens to him, then nothing will happen to him. Right? That's what he said. V'yad al tehibo. Let our hands not be upon him. Right? They throw him in there. And then Yehuda comes up with plan number 3. Let's sell him to the Yishmaelim, right? And the brothers agreed. Now let's read these next psukim to try to figure out what happened, who actually done it. V'yavru anashim midyanim. So they saw the Yishmaelim. But now who passed by? Midianite men, socharim, merchants. Vayimshechu, vayalu et Yosef min habor. And a pronoun here, and they pulled and brought up Yosef from the pit. And they sold Yosef to the Yishmaelim for 20 kesef. And they brought Yosef to Mitzrayim. So if you're reading the pasuk simply, who are the ones who pulled him out of the pit? The Midianites. Now, Rashi, and let's continue. And then we'll see how Rashi's learning. So the simple meaning, the simple reading is, the brothers saw the Ishmaelim, they didn't see the Midianites, they're having their meal, waiting for the Ishmaelim to come. Who comes from the other side, perhaps out of their view? They pull Yosef out of the pit, and they ended up taking him and selling him to the Ishmaelites. Vayeshev Reuven el Habor. Reuven comes back to the pit. V'hinei, and behold, ein Yosef babor. Yosef's not in the pit. He came back in order to save Yosef at this point. Why is Yosef not in the pit? He was sold by the Midianites to the Ishmaelim, and he tore his garments. He went back to his brothers and he said, the kid's not there. Now what am I going to do? Page 206. And then they took the cloak, they slaughtered a goat, they dipped the cloak in blood, they sent it to their father, and they said, this we found, recognize, is this the cloak of your son? Yaakov recognized it, said, it's the cloak of my son. A wild animal consumed him. Joseph has been torn apart, and he tore his garments. Yaakov did, right? Very much Yaakov over here, Jenny, right? Very Yaakov over here, in a very down state. Put on a sackcloth, and he went into mourning. Everyone tried to comfort him. He was inconsolable, could not be comforted. And he said, I will go down to my grave mourning my son. The Midanim sold him to Mitzrayim. Okay? To Potiphar, Srispa, Sar HaTabachim. Okay. Who are these Midanim? Right? According to Rashi, this is another nation. Now, the way we read it, the brothers did not sell Yosef. The brothers conspired to sell Yosef, waiting for the Ishmaelim, right? Midyanim come, haul him out, sell him. Reuven goes back to the pit. Yosef's gone because he was sold already. And then the story continues. Okay. Linda, I'm just going to mute you, otherwise we're getting some bounce back. Okay. Rashi, now let's look forward to page 252 for a moment. This is when the brothers come down and Yosef reveals his identity to the brothers. Page 252, Perek Mem Hey, Pasuk Dalid. Vayomer Yosef el Achav. Yosef says to his brothers, Geshu na Eli, come close to me. Vayigash, and they drew close. Vayomer, he said, Ani Yosef achichem, I am Joseph your brother. Asher mechartem oti Mitzrayma, that you sold me Mitzrayma. I am Yosef, Joseph your brother, that you sold me to Mitzrayim. So I guess the brothers did sell Yosef. So let's go back and let's hear how Rashi learns, probably based on that pasuk that we just saw. Yosef said, I'm Yosef, the guy that you sold to Egypt. So therefore, Rashi on pasuk, page 204, pasuk Chavchet, it says, Vayavru anashim midyanim socharim, these Midianite merchant men passed by, Vayimshichu, and they pulled him. Who's they? The sons of Yaakov. Rashi learns, pulled him, Vayalu, and pulled him up from the pit, and sold him to the Yishmaelim. So why are we mentioning the Midyanim according to Rashi? What do they have to do? What do they have to do with anything over here? So Rashi there said, oh, we mentioned the Midyanim because he got sold many times. So he got, right, it switched hands many times. And they brought him to Mitzrayim. Now 29 is a problem for Rashi. Reuven came back to the pit, and behold, Joseph's not in the pit. Well, of course he's not in the pit. They all just sold him. He tears his garments, comes back to his brothers, right? So then the question is, what's going on? Where was Reuven? According to the first one we learned, which is the Rashbam, Rashi's grandson. It's beautiful. They're all eating over there, looking at the Ishmaelim. The Midianites come over here. Then they finish eating. They go back to the pit. They probably went a bit of a distance away because they wouldn't want to hear his cries and his shrieks. Reuven comes back, but according to Rashi, the brothers are the ones who sold. And Reuven was with the brothers. Where was Reuven? Rashi says, oh, you know what happened? Each day, someone would go back and serve father, take care of father. And that was Reuven's day. To me, it seems a bit strange. If every day someone's going back, then father knows exactly how the boys are doing and how the flocks are doing. So why would he send Yosef to go check? Right? Or another explanation, Rashi says, he had gone off to do teshuvah. We had in the last week's Parsha that he had moved after the death of Rachel, he moved the tent, the mattress of Yaakov, into the tent of Leah. Yaakov had moved after Rachel's death, had moved his main lodging to Bilhah, the maidservant of Rachel. And he felt that was a slap in the face to his mother, so he moved the mattress into his mother's tent. And an explanation that's given over there, why did Yaakov not do that? Well, actually, from Yaakov's perspective, that was probably a show of respect to Leah. Meaning, if I didn't make you my number one initially, I don't deserve to have you. And to come to you now on the rebound after Rachel's death might actually be considered a show of disrespect. Okay, now I'm interested in you, right? It could be on the rebound, a bit of a disrespect. Whatever the case is, Reuven got involved in his parents' intimate affairs. Never a very good idea, actually a disrespectful thing to do. And therefore, and he was censured for that. We'll hear later on at the end of Bereshit, when Yaakov is giving the bracho to each of them, he'll bring that up, right? So Reuven had gone off to do teshuvah for having moved the mattresses. Again, it's a bit, to me, it seems a bit forced, because he knows this is, right, his plan was throw him in the pit and then save him. So maybe now's not the time to go off for some teshuva. Maybe now's the time to stick around and make sure that your plan B goes into a and turning. Safe, your brother, the one that you sold to Egypt. All of these contortions. Okay. What does the Rashbam do with that pasuk? He says very simply, it's because of you guys I got sold down to Egypt. Right? You didn't necessarily sell me to Egypt. You're not necessarily the ones who actually sold me to Egypt. But hey, I came to see how you were doing to report back to father. And you took me and threw me into a pit. And then you went off to have some shawarma. And in the meantime, I got hauled out of this pit and I got sold down to Egypt. Guess who's responsible for that? You are responsible. And on Yom Kippur and on Tisha B'Av, we have this part that we say about the Asara Haruge Malchut, the 10 great sages who were killed over different generations by the Romans. And our understanding is that that comes as kapara, so to speak, as a certain atonement for the sale of Yosef. Those 10 correspond to the 10 brothers who were involved in the sale of Yosef. So according to the Rashbam, even though they're not the ones who sold Yosef, there is a responsibility that a person has. There are certain dinim. There's dine Adam and there's dine Shamayim. A person might not be liable by an earthly court, but a heavenly court will hold a person liable, responsible. That's how the Rashbam is viewing this. Now, according to the, yes, Gabriela.
You're saying that in regards to the principle of Rodef, like they were acting out in those terms, like they're not held liable for that by an earthly court. But
No.
no.
A rodef, in the case of a rodef, in the case of a true rodef, you're not held responsible b'dinei Adam or b'dinei Shemayim, not by an earthly court nor by a heavenly court. You did the right thing. Not just if someone is chasing you, if someone's chasing someone else, then I get involved and I will, if necessary, have to kill that person to save the life of the person. So there a person will have done the right thing. Okay? But there are certain things where I did not directly cause. Let's say somebody has truma. Truma is consecrated food, where we have to be very, very careful that it does not become tameh. If it becomes tameh, its value goes down. Okay, this the Gemara calls a hezek she'eno nikar. Let's say I take a rodent and I touch it to the truma, and I thereby have made the truma, right? Is there any recognizable damage done? No. There was, 50 kilo of grain, and there's 50 kilo of grain. But I've caused a hezek, a damage. Now it can only be sold, right? Now there's less value to it now of who's allowed to eat this. Okay? So I've caused a hezek she'eno nikar. So b'dinei Adam, an earthly court, cannot convict me. But I'm liable b'dinei Shamayim, meaning I do owe the money. The heavens say I owe the money. But the earthly court can't force me to pay. But I do owe the money. So the brothers were responsible for this over here. And according to this Rashbam, we see, first of all, that we're also responsible for the things that indirectly come about through us. The bad and certainly for the good. Meaning, as much as we can do, right, we have to try to be those agents of good. And Rabbi Foreman points out another very beautiful idea here. Plan A, plan number one was what? Kill him, throw him into a pit. And then plan B was, we'll throw him into a pit. Let him die there. Plan C was, you know what? We'll sell him. So why did they go from plan 1 to plan 2 to plan 3? Right? What has changed between those different points? Time. Right? Right? Very often something happens and I've got to do this. Right? Give it a little time. All right, maybe I can do this. Give it a little more time. Maybe I can do this. Right? According to the Rashbam, had the Midianites not pulled him out, as they're waiting for the Ishmaelites to come, where plan 3 was to sell him to the Ishmaelim, what's happening in the meantime? More time, right? And maybe by the time they would have arrived, they would have said, you know what? He learned his lesson. Let's pull him out, send him back home. And he learned his lesson. He better not be reporting slanderous, not true things about us to Father. Right? Because as Yehuda said already in number 3, Achinu b'sarenu hu. He is our brother. He is our flesh. But they didn't have that chance. They didn't have more time. what happened? According to Rashbam, the Midianites came. And at that point, they didn't have the luxury of reconsidering and maybe we should do something different. Yes, Esther.
Rabbi, I mean, thinking back to when Jacob sent Joseph, and he was actually called Israel at that point, perhaps because that's the beginning of the prophecy and the unwinding of the dream. And so maybe the Midianites came along, they didn't have time to rethink because the plan that God had to send him to Egypt was already underway.
Beautiful. Right? Esther making a beautiful point, right? You would think, according to what we had discussed earlier, right, in answer to Jenny's question, that as he's sending him already, maybe it's not Yisroel, maybe it's Yaakov, because things are going to go bad really quickly. But why is it Yisroel? Esther wants to say, because this was the start of the fulfillment of the prophecies of Yosef's dreams, and the prophecy of Abraham by the Brit Bein HaBetarim, by the covenant by the halves. Yes, everything is part of God's master plan. Okay? And God will always incorporate our free will decisions into his master plan. But the fact that it's God's master plan does not exonerate the brothers, right? And if they would have right away said plan 4, or had they never decided to do plan 1, 2, or 3, so then there would have been another way that this prophecy would have all fallen into place, right? There's the master plan. This is a concept that we have very often. There's a master plan and there's our free will. The master plan does not force our free will. Our free will creates situations which will then become interwoven into the master plan. God will utilize our free will decisions to become part of the master plan. So, according to the Rashbam, yes, I like what you're saying, Esther. Yisroel, not Yaakov, it's all part of the divine plan, but that does not exempt the brothers. The brothers are responsible. And, right, yeah, they had their moments to move to plan 4 or never get to the need of a plan 4, and that time had passed. And very often, right, we have to realize that, we have an expression, it's never too late. That's not true, right? If you can do something, then it's not too late. But there are certain things, right? A certain thing you wanted to tell somebody, the person's not around anymore in this world, it's too late. And that's a very, very, very sobering and powerful message that we don't want to leave loose ends. And if there's something that needs to be said, something that needs to be done, so it needs to be said, it needs to be done. And sometimes we decide it's easier, it's more comfortable to delay it, but we do so at our own risk when we do so. Gabrielle, you want to say something?
I was just thinking about the Aseret Hadibros and like the laws of B'nai Noach. Like one overlap is not murdering, and then what I understand is like Hashem, like you can't murder because you're using your free will to do what Hashem in His wisdom can do on His own. You don't need to be the shaliach and like do it. Don't be the agent.
Don't be the agent. Yeah, right. Even though if I was successful, if so-and-so was successful in killing that person, then guess what? It was that person's time to go. However, that will not exonerate the one who did it because he was not told to go ahead and do that. And therefore, We have a concept megalgal in zuchut al yidei zakai v'chov al yidei chayav. A good thing will come about through someone who has merits, and a bad thing will come about through someone who is liable, who's being held responsible. Okay, we'll call it over here, my friends. So once again, next week we're going to be having in person pastries and Parsha right here. With thank you to Esther's sponsorship and initiative, and we're going to be publicizing that also. Okay, so we'll probably need figure for about 50, 60 people.
I think so.
Yeah, at least. Yes.
Thank
Okay,
you.
everybody. Good seeing everybody. So once again, if you can make it next week in person, please do. Okay, we'll call it over here.